Give a dog a bone, it's Uncle Says. Hello and welcome to this week's Uncle Says. We're a weekly podcast discussing our lives in China, making short films, which right now are on YouTube, and kind of art in general. We have a couple different segments, but we have our one big homeschool film school, and tonight we're going to be talking about the structure of our videos and kind of story structure that's non-typical narrative. So stick around for that. We are coming to you live to tape from beautiful whoopwu studios here in Luzhou, Sichuan, China. It's been wet and hot, which is a change up from wet and cold as it's been recently. So let's kick things off with How's Your Uncle? We just had the absolute worst dinner here tonight, and I forgot to introduce myself, so I'll do that now. I am Emily, and I had a terrible dinner, and with me as always is Peter, who also had a terrible dinner.
Pretty bad.
We took a chance on a new delivery place that had like cute little prepared boxes of food that looked cute, and it was clear it was fast food, but it was not clear how terrible it would be. It really, we unwrapped it and Peter was like, oh, it's like airplane food. And then it was the worst airplane food.
Without a trip.
Yeah, we didn't even get to go anywhere. So we ordered a second dinner. It was really just that bad. It was like the worst food ever. So that was fun. Earlier this week we had some oil hijinks. We use oil, I guess it's oil, right? Gas?
Gas. Oh.
I don't know. Whatever it is, for our hot water heater and our range, our stovetop, uses gas, which we don't use that much, so it's fine. But we do use hot water quite a lot. And the gas went out the other day, and the gas goes out from time to time for various reasons. And so I did the problem solving of it was I paid the bill. It turns out that wasn't it. They'll let you run quite a deficit because the last time I paid the gas bill before this was at least a year ago. But so that wasn't it. And so it turns out this time the culprit was the batteries in our meter need to be changed.
Our water batteries.
Yeah, which was a new one. But now I know. Add that to the checklist of what's wrong with the gas or the oil or whatever. So it was only a momentary half an hour. We're okay. We have hot water now.
You okay?
I'm okay. And what else happened this week is last Monday, school was canceled for the alcohol festival. Which I think I mentioned last week. It tickles me that kindergarten gets canceled so everybody can go to the alcohol festival. We did not go. We stayed home and filmed some stuff that it turned out we were not happy with afterwards. So we're going to do some reshoots after some equipment comes in. And I can tell you more about that when it's successfully done. But just to say, sometimes there's no salvaging a project and you just have to start over, and that's happened.
It's the failure report.
Yeah, the failure report. So that's how we are. Hungry and cold and failed.
Not cold.
Not cold anymore. At least we can take a hot shower. Confused, but hot shower. Yeah, so that's that. Let's go on to conduct some business. We've been experimenting the past week and a half with Facebook ads. If you're a I don't think they don't do this if you're a person. They do this if you're like a page.
I think so.
They give you the option if you're a person too, to boost
No,
your post.
well, I don't. Why are you advertising you as a person?
I don't know. I thought that was weird when I started saying it. So Hello Uncle Foreigner is on Facebook, and we have our own Facebook page for that as an entity. And they're always, if you have a page like that, you know they're always like, boost your post, which I secretly suspect is like they're burying your posts unless you give them money. I think it's extortion. But we just decided to give in to the extortion this week, and we bought 2 ads for 2 separate posts a week apart. And it seems...
It's cheap, so...
It was cheap. Yeah, we paid $30 total for the 2 ads for 10 days each. And it says we reached thousands of people, so that's more than we reach on YouTube for free. So we wanted to experiment and see what would happen. And I think, as far as we can tell, what did happen is more people saw it and some people clicked. For shoes was the first video we started an ad with last week. And it did, like usually on YouTube, for our numbers, we have a good first day, and then the second day it kind of levels off, and then by the third day there's really no growth, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much par for the course, especially for smaller channels.
Yeah, that's what they say, is that your subscribers and anybody who's on who gets notifications of your post go and watch it in the first 2 days, and then it doesn't like have any organic reach because it's just you're not popular enough. I have to sneeze.
Oh no! No, no!
Excuse me. But so we started the ad on the 3rd day after posting. And then we did get like a pretty good jump. For the next couple days. We ran the ad for 10 days, and I would say the first 3 and 4 days were good, and then diminishing returns, and by now we're not really seeing any movement anymore.
But we topped out at 185.
Yeah, which is good for us. 185 is
in a first week.
Almost double what we usually do.
Yeah.
For a normal video, that's really good for us. And then the second ad seems to be performing, well as well. What we did differently in the first ad, because you can choose the audience you're going to target. And then, so this is something. They give you the option to target by race or ethnic affiliation. And then, so just for because it was there, I put in Asian American just because we're in China. I mean, maybe that is racist. But then Facebook rejected the ad because they said you're not allowed to target ethnic groups. But they're the ones who put that in the form.
It's a kind of trap.
Yeah. But anyway, so we don't choose ethnicity. But we could choose all kinds of interests like TV or music or movies, or they even have categories of lived abroad in China, family of someone who lived abroad. You can choose
They're pretty close, pretty detailed.
Yeah, which is
what kind of shoes you wear?
Creepy. And then on our second ad, so on our first ad, we chose some of that stuff, but then I think by default it just targeted the United States. And then the second ad, so we added on English-speaking countries around the world, so that we're still gathering the data. That was 2 days ago.
Yeah.
We set that ad up.
Facebook, it doesn't look like they put too much. They don't update very well.
Yeah, I think there's a lag in how accurate their numbers are versus what's happening right now. So we're still looking at the data, but it seems again that we're having some good effect in that the video is still continuing to grow well beyond the time that it usually grows. And I think we just wanted to see what would happen. It's definitely not sustainable for us to keep paying for viewers, especially so few viewers. Because it did get us more viewers, but it got us 30 more viewers. So Now we know. Now we've seen what that does. So it was an interesting experiment.
Experiment.
Yeah. But let's go on to homeschool film school.
This isn't working.
Oh, okay. Homeschool film school.
A number of things are working.
None of them are?
No.
Here's another bit of business. We use a free program called OBS to stream our live to tape, and it is very quirky. That's the program that allows us to slip the bumpers in live, but it doesn't always work right. So we may have to reevaluate the way that we do that. But anyway, homeschool film school. Are you still clicking on stuff? What's going on over there?
Yeah, maybe the mouse.
Oh.
Like not.
Sorry, OBS. It might be our mouse. Anyway, homeschool film school. We're going to talk this week about our video structure because we just used our analytics to figure out something that, in retrospect, seems very obvious, but at the time before that, it did not seem obvious. Which is save your best, most weighty feature for last. The thing that you advertise in your title, the thing that you advertise in your thumbnail, don't address it until last, because if people have that narrative satisfaction, then they are done with your video. We were putting it first because it felt like, well, it's important, let's lead with that. But I think like every other industry, from like novels to storytelling, those are the same thing, to even like news, news doesn't lead with the big story of the night. News puts it at the end. And the way we kind of thought about it to help us get there was that if there's any analog to what we're doing is maybe a talk show, where the talk show has monologue introduction at the beginning, some jokey bits in the middle, the big deal interview with the big star first, and then we trail off and close it up with some minor bits, but that might have quite attraction for you. So for us, we have like Giraffe has developed into multiple bits, and some of them are recurring and some of them are invented for that week, and then maybe will recur in the future or not. And then there's like a story, and then this week there was 2 stories, and we choose one of those things to be the not centerpiece isn't the right word, but it's the thing that we hang our thumbnail and our title on, because it's hard to sell like 9 stories about stuff. So there has to be like one thing that it's about, and so we usually choose that to be just like the vloggy story. Although that could change.
Well, initially we started, just to go back a bit, we started with, hang on one second. But we're back and we're working now.
All right.
Let's try homeschool. All right. So back to me. Just to go back.
All right. So the structure of our podcast this week is all nuts.
When we first started, especially with the Giraffe, it was you were just kind of stream of conscious an idea really quickly.
Yeah.
And then you let a couple other ideas sort of trickle out the back.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't really have a structure. It was just like, here's an idea, we'll film it. Like our first ones were like, eat a Big Mac. Hey, it's New Year's.
Right. So we had one simple story and then started adding segments as afterthoughts, literally afterthoughts.
And then we just kept that.
Yeah.
Until we realized that like people were clicking for some kind of information, possibly, and we told them right away. And then as soon as we were over, we still had like 5 more minutes of all kinds of really cool animation and all tons of work.
And sometimes even jokier things, funnier things than the initial story would have been.
Yeah. And people, as soon as the story was over after 2 minutes, they were gone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because we get that audience data. We can see where people drop off. We can even see like if there's a part where people rewind them and watch more than once.
And what was happening was they were watching exactly to the end of the information of where you said like, so that's our story about X for this week.
Yeah.
Now stick around for lots more fun, and they were gone already.
They didn't stick around. So this week we didn't shoot it with this in mind, but after shooting we discovered via the audience retention data, like, oh, people come for that story, then leave after that story is finished. Let's put that story at the end. And we could see from the data that it was a far more even. We still have major drop off in the first like 20 seconds because I think everybody does, because there's people who choose you and then decide like, no, I'm going to go walk the baby or something instead.
Or watch 7 other things.
Yeah. But so this had that drop off, but then it didn't. Usually what we've seen is like steep drop off and then slow drop off to the end. And this had steep drop off and then pretty flat until the end.
But people call it the hockey stick, I think, or something.
That's not what they call well, maybe they call it the hockey stick too. Something. It could be a hockey stick.
There's a term for it of like there's a drop off, and it's just a matter of how far does it keep dropping off, or does it hit a point?
Right. Yeah. That it's flat. It's angled and then it's flat. So yeah, I guess that's also a hockey stick.
That's what
Yeah, so we were pretty psyched to see that, and we did have a big discussion over, are we letting analytics drive our creative content, because we're wary of that, in this day and age that's like info-driven artistic decision-making is kind of taking over. But we kind of felt like, especially after we came up with that talk show analogy, that like, no, it makes creative sense to stick the payoff at the end. That's where the payoff goes. And then after that we have like a little come down with a complaint and then the comment of the week, which is pure audience pandering interaction. And I don't know if that actually does anything or not, if anybody actually cares actually no, people have commented
I don't know what you're talking
that
about.
They're happy
it's a big
to
hit.
Yeah. Yeah, I take it back. People, when we choose them as commenter of the week, are like, they give us good feedback, so that's cool. And so it is like, that's the interactive component, which YouTube says, and I mean that like,
it's as old as vaudeville.
Very scattered tonight.
Yeah, it's as old as the our hills of wait till the end and bring people up on stage or something. Yeah,
and it's something that like TV and movies can't do, is have that direct interaction with the audience, and so that is, we do wish we were making a TV show, and maybe one day we will, but right now what we're making is a YouTube video, and so that a strength of that is that you can directly have a conversation with someone in your audience or all of your audience. So that's, we tease that at the beginning and then have it at the end, so hopefully like our true blue fans are going to stick around to the end. I mean, they could also just skip to the end if the tension is killing them.
Just need to hear your name.
Yeah, but so that was always at the end, and we kept it at the end for that reason.
But it's also turning out to be fun to have that kind of interaction with people to
oh yeah,
to you're just kind of playing around and maybe even making friends, hopefully.
Yeah. But so it's interesting because, like Peter said, the giraffe kind of evolved out of this stream of consciousness, and as it was growing, like last week I would say was a big breaking point of like, it's not a stream of consciousness anymore. It is a structured story. It's a structured YouTube event.
It may not be scripted per se.
Yeah, it's not scripted, but I do have an outline, and then even instead of doing it all in one take, there's so much now that we broke it down into a couple takes, so I could like consult my notes, and we grouped things together that we knew that maybe we wouldn't need a transition between, because we're still trying to keep it
Well, it makes it easier for you to come up with a piece on the spot, take it down, start another spot. But it's also easier for me in editing afterwards because then I can work on the transitions that are a lot more zippier than you saying, like, okay, so that piece is ended. Our next piece is, so I could just quick shot to the next thing and keep everything moving.
Right.
So it's easier for both processes to keep going.
Because that was another thing too of like, when I would say it was the end of a particular segment, that would be a drop-off point. And so we were like, well, what if we don't ever say it's the end until the actual end and just
And then
have...
even then, the people say that don't come up with an ending anymore. Like, just end your video.
Right.
Don't ever say that, like, well, that was it for today.
Yeah. Really? They say that, like, even at the end, don't say the end?
Yeah. Like, just...
Why?
Just
Why?
because people turn off before they get to the
Before
call
they
to
get
action
to your call to action.
or your...
Yeah. But yeah, so that was... We made a conscious effort, I did, in what I was saying, not to say, so that's that, and now this, to just like stop talking about that and start talking about this with no transition, which again, if we were, that still makes sense for the giraffe character who's like very nervous and scattered, and stream of consciousness is a good word for that, so that it would just keep flowing. If we were doing something else, I don't know that would, we'd have to think about that decision more. But as it is, it's like the fact that she just stops talking about one thing and launches right into another thing works for the character.
And it works for YouTube in general, but even bigger stuff like TV, like who was the actress that has the new TV show, that the SNL woman that A starts with
Adi Bryant?
Adi Bryant. Her talking with Mark Maron and talking about the SNL skits, and they were saying how they're better now. Apparently, I haven't watched them, but like, and she said, well, it's because from YouTube that everything's only like 4 minutes, so you can snip everything is really fast. So
Being on network television wasn't enough to like bring your best, but now it might go viral on YouTube. So do they all have to be the best?
Yeah, everything has to be chopped down to the last second of like as fast as possible, in and out.
Yeah, there's no fat.
Yeah, no one's sitting around waiting, going like, well, in a time when we don't even have, all your major shows don't even have openers anymore with theme songs. You are basically, no one's sitting around for you to say like, well, here's what's coming up next. Like well, I'm done, I'm out of here.
Right. And that as a restriction can like feel uncreative, but I think it's a good skill to have, to be able to cut the fat and have only the meat, to dwell in this metaphor. Like, for example, so as I've mentioned before, I used to work at a newspaper as a writer, and we were one of those free handout at the subway newspapers that like every story was 200 words long.
Commuter.
Yeah, commuter paper, if that's a term that people recognize anymore. But yeah, so stories were like super short, like 200 words. If you're not a writer, maybe that sounds like a lot, but it's not. It's not a lot of words to convey a whole complex news story.
Yeah, it used to be that was like the beginning of your story. That would open you up to like possibly what we're talking about.
Right.
Now that's the end. Right.
Yeah, that's the whole deal. So like, it was annoying. It was annoying to have to boil everything down to 200 words, but it also, I am like a really disciplined, super sharp, super economical writer now. And working for myself, I can use that in the ways that I want to, so I can get right to the point.
The meat?
Right to the meat. But then I can also, sprinkle on some seasoning if I like, because that's my prerogative.
Sprinkle on the fat?
Sprinkle on the fat. But I think, and every creative person is going to grumble about these kinds of restrictions, but I think it does help you to be really good at what you're doing. But then in the end, it is also like, limiting. I mean, I quit that job and I was very happy when I didn't have to write like that anymore.
Well, it's one of the things.
So I think it's a good tool, and you have to like know when to use it and how to use it correctly, not just because the algorithm says.
And then on top of it, you have to perform on the spot, which is another person's job. That was always a newscaster, anchor person who would be, that's what they went to school for, is to learn how to speak without like any gaps. There's no time to wait for people to, what are you going, like,
right.
You have to speak as fast as you would have edited your writing.
Oh, yeah, I'm not economical at all when I am performing the draft, because that's not written, that's just
But it's
performed.
it's amazing when you see a lot of people that are on YouTube will sort of just kind of because
Oh yeah, a lot of dead air
Yeah.
filler noises, which I think you and I are maybe better than average at because of our experience teaching.
Teaching helps, yeah.
And specifically teaching in China, teaching English in China is all about like keeping the attention of 60 kids.
Probably of any kids, really.
Yeah.
You can't really have dead air unless you're
Yeah, so you
tests.
don't have dead air. We tutored students in these high level interviews to get into English language schools, and we would like teach them not to say like or and da, da, da. And then we, having given that advice, we were like, well, we have to follow that advice too. And so both of us really worked hard to eliminate those thinking noises from our vocabulary.
Because it's amazing when you hear
And I still have it.
when you hear people not editing them out. All your podcasts are just there's just tons of edits all over the place.
Yeah.
I heard Penn Jillette, they were talking about it, and his editor was saying all the edits they took out of mouth noises this week, and he played them for like 30 seconds of.
Ugh.
But
Wait,
somebody goes in and takes
They
all
edit like
your ums and your uhs and.
That sounds like a lot of work. I
Yeah.
guess that's why
That's
all
why
these
editors-
podcasts have editors and
Yeah.
they don't do it themselves.
And the same thing with YouTube, and you just, I mean, I do it to you.
That's true. You do it for me.
I've never taken a bunch of them and put them on the side and like, do all your ums together, but
You did it once to get me to stop doing it, I think. I think you were like, I have to cut a lot of these out. Let me show you what it's like. And then, so I do now make more of an effort not to say Still happens, but...
well, like we said to our students, it's better for you to stop, think about what you're going to say, and then continue, than go, no one wants to hear that or look at it.
Yeah. We kind of have gotten off topic, though. So, speaking well, that's important. Speaking clearly and directly. Unless your character is kind of not sure of themselves and they're making noises too and have a stutter. But that's all premeditated. It's not... Oh, sorry, I'm tired again this week.
You gotta stop these Sunday.
I got a new video game yesterday, and I played it all day. And I didn't play it in bed because I'm still following the no screens in bed. But I think it made me not sleep so well last night.
And you had to destroy the entire world in your game, so
Yeah,
that's a lot of work.
It was a lot of work. It was very hard. So one last thing I want to say about editing with the algorithm is that it can give you useful data. But I did hear the director of Maniac, I think Corey... Oh, I don't remember his last name. Fukunawa, I think is his last name. He complained that Netflix was very... Because Netflix also has all this data and is very driven by the algorithm and very much knows when people are turning off or changing the program or whatever. So he said that they were very hands-on in how they asked him to edit, and even story points that, there were creative decisions being made because of algorithms. And for Peter and I, we watched the first couple episodes, and we were like, this is all the cool things that we like future punk, anarchist, disrupt the systems, blah, 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 sci-fi. And we were just, both of us felt very cold about it. We were not moved.
It's got no heart.
It looked super cool. It was super slick, but it just, we stopped watching after a couple episodes because it just didn't hold our attention. And then so to find out that that's what was happening behind the scenes was a good cautionary tale of, you can use the data, but you still have to, make art. You still have to make choices that feel right to you. And we feel like we're still on that side of it.
We haven't been corrupted by the big bucks yet.
Yeah, we're still pure. Yeah. Let's go on to... Commentary?
Let's see if it works.
So I don't know if I actually said the name of this week's video. It was No Ice, You're in China, because that marquee story was about my trainer refills my bottle with hot water if she thinks it's too cold during our lessons together, my gym trainer.
It's a Chinese thing.
Yeah, it's a Chinese thing. Watch the video. So yeah, it was a besides the structural changes, which was more of a discussion in post-production, it was pretty much followed the pattern that we had already set up for draft videos, which is that, I make a bunch of notes, we sit down in front of the green screen. But like I said, this was the first one we shot in separate takes because it's getting to be bigger than I can keep all in my head at once. So that's the behind the scenes on the making of that one. Was there anything else special about that one?
Real animation.
Oh yeah, we have animation in that one.
Yeah.
That's right. Peter, do you want to talk about your animations?
Do we have animation? We've introduced your giraffe cartoon version, but this was the first time that we actually got you to speak, so we're seeing where that goes.
Because we had a couple of animated things before that had mouth movements that were just open, close, open, close, open, close.
Or making smirks. Or...
Yeah. So you had eye expressions, different mouth expressions, and then even down to the letters you animated. And I think this is so interesting from a phonics perspective of
𝗵𝗵.
PB and M are all the same mouth movement, and so it was these. You name the files by these letter clusters, and then you can make the words together out of
your F's and your B's or
yeah. So I think that's super cool. And then you said so you're assembling them still right in Final Cut frame by frame, but if we find a good dedicated animation program that you have the capability to build certain words like foreigner, so you don't have to individually...
Yeah, down the road with a serious program when we get into it, we'll can start animating whole scenes and things, but at the moment, we're just basically taking your dialogue and then turning it into facial features to make the characters talk, which is pretty basic in that I draw them by hand, the basic outline of the character, put it into the computer, and then Photoshop create all the different mouths and draw the mouths there, and then put them one by one, just like an old-fashioned.
Because it took you were building it all from scratch, so that took you a couple days.
Yeah.
To get tens of seconds of animation.
Well, yeah. Well, you have to make the drawings first, which takes a long time. But
so
now I have a lot of
this week
drawings.
you have the raw materials, so it's faster. But it still takes you a good while to like.
Yeah, then you have to build them by page by page by page by page after.
Yeah.
So you have to like. Now you've got all the drawings. You just got to put them in order.
Yeah.
So I'm like I'm listening to you and watching your mouth and going, all right, there's a T, I need a T. There's a U, I need a U. And I'm just pulling those down one, and by the end, hopefully it works out.
So yeah, that's an ever-evolving thing that was really exciting that we launched this week.
Yep.
We also put out 3 legacy videos, which we keep changing how many other videos we're going to put out, but it made sense to put out these out this week.
Yeah, we're kind of just going by what seems to be right for the right time.
Yeah.
Because some of them are seasonal, so that like some of our videos are Thanksgiving or the heat of the summer, so like we have to push those to the back. So we're just kind of going week to week as to what might actually go well with what's happening with an ad that we put on Facebook. Back that up to hopefully boost our numbers so that we can get seen by more people and algorithms and
and that did well, which I forgot to mention in Connecting Business, that yesterday we got 6 new subscribers.
Yeah, we went
in one day.
Yeah, we're up to 76. We were 69.
Yeah, so that's
yesterday morning, evening, day before.
That's unprecedented for us.
Unprecedented.
So I think between the combination of the Facebook ads and the attention generated on YouTube by posting 4 videos in 1 week, it just worked out.
Well, that's
our week.
That's the whole thing with trying to like figure out, especially when we have this bank of older videos to pepper into the new ones, and each week it's different. Like this week that looked good, like if I backed up the new video with a video before that and then a video after that, and I played the cards right, and it got us a bunch of subscribers.
And the first of these was we called it Mega Shorts the first time around, because our vlog we were calling Uncle Shorts, because we're Hello Uncle Foreigner, and these are shorts, so these are Uncle's Shorts. And this one is a collection of 9 different short stories all together. At the time, up until that time, we were doing 1 or 2 at a time in a video, and this was the first one. Peter had been kicking around this idea for a while, and then it just became like the right time, and so he was like, what have you got? We're going to film them all, put them all together.
Part of what we were looking at was we'd gone from little short videos to making much longer videos to saying like we don't want to do a 20-minute video that we research for 4 months before we do it.
Right.
So then we were like, well, how do we make long videos but they don't all have to be like epic pieces?
Yeah.
So the idea of why don't we just take a bunch of little tiny videos, put them all into one big video, and see if that attracts attention, which it didn't.
It didn't that time, or really this time.
Yeah.
It didn't do that well. Which is it's no comment on its quality. I think it's
they're great.
It's a really good video.
Maybe if we split them into 9 1 or 2 minute stories,
right?
then they might have all done great.
But it was fun. Because I think in preparation for it, I did spend a couple weeks writing stories, but like as our deadline approached to film it, I didn't have as many as we wanted to have, so I went back through some notebooks and kind of half-finished ideas and found some things that I think would not have developed into full stories that could have stood on their own, but within the compendium, it's actually nice to have different weights to each story. Like this one has a real arc to it and really gets you invested, and then this one is just a sweet little, here's a notion. And so it actually worked to have stories of different values.
I have to look at the actual time of when we made this one, but I think it was about the time that we may have been starting these live streams. So I think we were kind of kicking around the idea of like, does a story go to an actual vlog piece, or does it go to a little Uncle Short? Does it go to a big, long, full piece? Does it go to a little story during a live stream?
Oh yeah.
We were trying to figure out where to put them.
And we had just started Twitter too, I think. So we were like, where did these ideas go?
Yeah, that's the whole thing with social media is that like all these stories don't go in some places.
Yeah.
And finding it, that's what we've been doing maybe the last like 9 months is trying to figure out.
Yeah,
who goes with what.
And what kind of idea belongs in which medium. But yeah, so it was, and I think I filmed them over 2 days, and I do remember walking up and down the block, and I filmed like 6 stories in that one trip, and I even brought like a headband or a shirt to put over my other shirt, so I like would have brought a couple headbands actually, and put my sunglasses on, took my sunglasses off, so it wouldn't necessarily look like I filmed them all at the same time, but I filmed a big chunk of them in that one up and down the block. But I don't think, unless you're looking really carefully, I don't think you can tell. I think it works.
Well, also
like
that really helped.
Separate stories.
That really helped me for the editing of them because I wanted each piece to be edited in a different way so that they all looked like, even though they're all you doing walk and talks down the street, that they all had like a different vibe, different colors, different saturations, or you know, whatever the gimmick was for each one. They looked like different pieces, so it was essential that we had different costumes. So.
Yeah, and I think it really worked out. I think it's a cool.
Yeah, I'm totally psyched by it.
Cool piece. I wish more people would have watched it.
Yeah.
But maybe they will. Maybe they will after this live stream. But you were saying this afternoon when we were kind of talking about the rundown for the show that was kind of a prototype for what we've come back to doing now, in that it is these different segments that each one has their own feel but go together in a whole, and that this is what really kicked us out into experimenting with not one long narrative to fill out a piece, but different short pieces that we can find some way to go together. And also in a mission statement way, the creative goal is to give you snapshots and impressions of our life in China and what it's like to live abroad and what it's like to experience another culture. Rather than be like a didactic, direct, long lecture, let's let you immerse yourself in our world.
Which is also part of what we're experimenting with right now, of going back to that, and we never really left it, but we're trying different ways to do it, is that's not what a lot of YouTube is about. There aren't variety shows unless they're like an actual variety show. Like there aren't variety vlogs per se, like, and so
right, because it's hard. It's not.
You can't really have like here's what we're trying to do is like here's 7 stories that were given to you like in 7 minutes.
Right.
So it's not like one long boring story of here's whatever happened this week. We're giving you like the bang 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 story, but we're finding that that's really hard to sell in a description and a thumbnail, because people aren't used to that. They're used to give me my one story and then I'm clicking off and leaving.
Yeah.
Where we're like, we've got a whole show planned out for you. You don't have to watch it for an hour and a half. It's only 7 minutes long. You just wait till all the good parts happen later.
Right. Well, and from an authorial perspective, it's also hard. We've worked a lot, not only at like getting good at what we do, but also finding a way to like work smarter within our lives. So I'm not like sitting down and writing these pieces all day, every day, but I am like pretty much thinking about our videos all day, every day. And then I'll take notes as I need to, but it's a process. Like that's what we do all the time. And even to the point where people are like, "Oh, how was your weekend? What did you do?" Like, we did this, we did YouTube, because we're thinking about it all the time. And I can understand if maybe that's not what you want to do. This is just your vlog. But that's why you have one story instead of 7 stories every week.
And I think I was just listening to, I think it was Rob Schraub, who was saying that
he's a television producer.
That when you speak to most people, that like what do you do with your work? What do you do at work? What do you and you say like, well, I sat around the writer's room, and you think about like, well, I bounced a ball for a while, or whatever you're doing in the writer's room. It doesn't sound like you're doing any work at all.
Oh yeah, that was a really good discussion.
Yeah, but that's what you do all day long, every day. Sometimes you can't sleep. Like all you're doing is thinking about this. You're working 24 hours.
I have notebooks next to my bed. I have a notebook in my backpack. I have a notebook that's always on the living room table. So sometimes it is a matter of like hunting down the right notebook. I literally have had to do that.
A lot.
A lot. But it is, we watched an old episode of 30 Rock where they talked about the shower principle, which is a real thing of like, when you give your conscious mind a break, it keeps working on the problem that you're thinking about, and like, it's the shower principle because you think of your solution in the shower because your mind is actually doing something else. And I think that applies across the board to all creative pursuits. A lot of it is playing foosball and then like, okay, I got the idea.
Yeah, go about if you find yourself stuck, do some laundry, do the dishes, jog, or whatever. Like it's unless you're working in a team, it's rarely go talk to a friend or hang out. Like you don't come up with your ideas then. It's usually those moments of like, I've got to go do something to step away from this. That's, whatever, it's busy work or working out or something like that, so that your mind is freed up to do your writing work, your creative work.
Which is all to say, even though it's only 13 minutes and you can easily, we're going to have talked for more than an hour probably today.
We're at 47 minutes right now.
9 stories in 1 week is a lot, which is why people don't do it.
Yeah. Well, and also why people aren't even thinking, I don't know how we're supposed to sell that, of like, you just said it the other day, of like, I don't think people do this much work, and because people aren't even looking for that much work. They're not even thinking about like whether I'm just clicking on a video, like just be fun. I don't care how much work you did, but there isn't like a way of like, here's 9 stories in a way that you'd never expect. Like, I'm not looking for a mystery. I just want to like see somebody fall over on YouTube.
Right. Well, like, have we invented a genre? Are we that innovative?
We're working hard to do something.
It's hard to sell, but it is. We feel so confident that like once we do get seen, people are going to like it. And we do get, it's really great that we do get comments that are like, wow, this is so cool. I can't believe no one's ever heard of this before. Mm-hmm. Like, so tell them.
Share. Hit the like button.
Don't tell us. Tell your friends.
Please hit like.
But, so yeah, it is, marketing is always going to be hard because we're weird, but that was always that was always going to be true, YouTube or not.
That's the thing, when you're trying to come up with something that people don't usually expect, that they're not looking for. Of course they're not looking for us. They don't know what to type in to look for us. You can't just type in Emily and Peter because I want to watch on a mixture of music and expat life and animation and giraffe costumes. Right. No one knows to look for that. And if you find it and you don't like it, well, that's something different. But like, I don't know how to get that in front of people's faces without like putting flyers all over town on the telephone poles. Right.
And
there isn't a venue.
That kind of frustration led us to our next video. Sichuan dishes. Sichuan dishes in China. You can't escape from Sichuan dishes.
You can never refuse Sichuan dishes.
Because for Sichuan, if you're gonna search anything about Sichuan on YouTube, it's going to be the food. with good reason. And I'll say up front that we do love both Sichuan food and food shows. So we thought, let's try our hand at a food show that kind of takes you on the tour of our favorite Sichuan food.
We tried before with noodles.
Yeah.
But that was pretty straightforward, a little weird.
Yeah.
Now we were like,
this wasn't meant to be weird.
Well, okay, so it started out.
And it started out, so part of our discussion was, like, we are picky eaters. And a lot of China in general, China in general. Food shows that feature Chinese cuisine, American food shows that feature Chinese cuisine, are very much about either maximum spice or maximum scorpions and, like, oh my god,
brains.
They eat brains, they eat all these things that we don't eat, and it's all like extreme Andrew Zimmern food gross out kind of food as a dare.
Holy crap, dare me to eat this.
Yeah, which is not at all our experience. We eat Sichuan food, well, not every night anymore, because it's a little bit spicy for you. But we eat Sichuan food as a normal thing because we live in Sichuan.
Well, as Westerners, we eat it as much as we eat whatever Western food.
Yeah.
If you have spaghetti one night, you have Chinese food another night. Like, we try to. Before, it used to be nothing but Chinese food.
Yeah.
So
with this video, we wanted to give the perspective of, like, if you're not treating this as a dare, what would you want to know? And also as a picky eater, like, because there's a lot of the food that we are not into, and so we wanted to. Which
is totally normal here. I mean, there are brains and rabbit heads and things like that, and it's not weird. It's just what that is.
But there are also Chinese people who are like, I don't eat brains either.
Yeah.
It just is. There are more people who do eat brains.
Yeah, it's not a dare here.
Yeah. It's just food. Kids.
But there's also normal stuff for us, normal in, like, cabbage and and just regular old bacon or
and so we wanted to showcase our favorite foods that also felt like entry level picky eater wants to try a new cuisine, I guess.
What's the closest thing to Western food that you would have that's totally Sichuan? No? What would a Western person eat?
As the overall.
Yeah.
I thought you were quizzing me.
No.
To name a dish. I was gonna say, well, that cauliflower and bacon.
Well,
that's not like anything in
the dishes we chose for this video were like pretty basic.
A flavor profile that wasn't too challenging, I guess.
But totally Sichuan.
But yeah. So that was the germ of the idea, and then we were gonna do another green screen attempt.
Without a green screen.
And that, again, went just totally awry. And I think was even worse than the first time. Because it just...
We tried to make it better and we made it worse.
It wasn't good. And so you came to me like 2 days, after 2 days of trying to fix it. And you were like, it's not working. And it was the closest we came to maybe scrapping a video altogether. Because the green screen wasn't working, but because we were trying the green screen, the set behind me looks terrible. It's like this terrible blue sheet sloppily tossed over.
Well, it started to actually resemble some serial killer's cellar set.
Right. Yeah, so you came to me and you were like, it's like a snuff film.
Yeah.
And I remember the 2 points we considered were maybe I'm like isolated. There was something like isolating about it. So maybe I'm like isolated in space and I'm explaining to you from my space station that there's Chinese food. And we just like couldn't get that to work at all. But then in kind of a reactionary move, because Peter keeps up with the other YouTubers pretty well. And there is a flavor of YouTuber out there who's very aggressive about like explaining what's the right way to do things, especially in like.
No, it's not just YouTuber. I think it's been around for as long as. Well,
I mean,
probably most countries, but yeah, a lot of mansplaining, a lot of Marco
I'm
Poloing that
here.
people use.
Marco Poloing,
that's way before vlogging or blogging.
But so there are a lot of videos on YouTube that are like explaining China. And so we...
Yeah, how do you do it right? I'm going to show you.
Between this set that looks like I'm stranded in an isolated bunker and the idea of like we're trying to do the opposite of shove Chinese culture down your throat, we came up with the idea that I had been kidnapped and forced to explain these dishes to you.
By a Chinese old hand. An old hand being a Westerner who's lived here for a very long time.
Yeah.
So there's you've been kidnapped by somebody who's been living in China for a long time and is forcing you to eat Sichuan food the correct way that they believe that you aren't really experiencing China until you...
Because we had some shots on camera of Peter asking me to hold things in a different way. That we obscured his voice so you can't hear what he's saying. You can't make out what he's saying. But you can tell that he's giving me orders and I'm reacting to it. So we made Peter into this character who's bossing me around how to eat food.
In front of a camera, like as if I was like, show the people at home how that you're safe if you send $10.
Right. So it was like, it sounds insane to describe it like this, and it is insane if you watch it like that. But that was what kind of saved the video, and we even shot like that opening was conceived of after the fact to drive home the fact that I had been kidnapped.
Yeah. Make a little story out of it.
Yeah. And we talked in the past about the growing malaise we had with our YouTube videos, and this, I think, was the pinnacle.
Yeah, well, we kept...
We supremely reevaluated what we were doing after this video.
Well, the fact that, like, the pride is that we made something, I mean, it's pretty cool. I like it.
And
but,
it's
like,
definitely different.
But taking something that could be a monumental mistake and turning it into something creative is something that, like, once again speaks to when you have a deadline, when you work at a newspaper, like, you could screw up a story as long as you're not, like, putting out the facts of that, you know, lies and slander that you're gonna come up with some kind of story. Yeah, it's just things might get kind of weird.
Yeah. So that's why that happened. And yeah, I don't know. I have not watched it, to be honest, since last year.
It still scares me.
I don't know how
the fun part for me was that, like, I put tons of editing into it, so I did all kinds of really crazy sequential art tricks of making stories flow by boxes moving around and different panels interacting and all different kinds of effects. So from that standpoint, from a technical storytelling standpoint, I'm pretty darn psyched about it.
Yeah, and I think it captures the kind of mania that is interesting.
Well, yeah, and the same kind of like mania that from living here, at some points you just like you drive yourself down a path that you're just like, what am I doing?
Things get out of control, and if you're stubborn like me, you just go with it, and then all of a sudden, what happened? So
well, we got it on tape.
We got it on tape, and hundreds of years from now, people watch it and know something real about our time.
It's definitely not Rick and Morty's Sichuan sauce.
No. But in total opposite of that, the next video was a book review of the book Little Soldiers by Lenora Chu, which was about her. She's American, her husband is American, and they were living in Shanghai, and they sent their son, to Chinese kindergarten because international school is like super expensive. It's as expensive as colleges in the United States, private colleges. So they went to Chinese school instead. And so she wrote about her experience of that, and I read that book, and it like really resonated with my experience and explained some things that I had seen. And it was just a really good book, and I had really liked it, and so we were like, why not do a book review? Hello, Uncle Foreigner is allowed to be anything. Let's try it out.
We just did a Saw movie.
Yeah.
So why don't we just do a good old kindergarten book review?
So we went to our favorite cafe and ordered like delicious little drinks, colorful drinks, and I talked for 15 minutes about how I felt about that book. And it was so super straightforward. And in the end, I wanted to talk about that book, and we needed some videos. We always need videos. I wanted to talk about the book. We had a platform, so that's what we did.
Yeah, well, it wasn't so much that we needed a video. We always want to try to do something different for everything. And once again, that's kind of what makes us hard sell. It's like, so you're a book review just this week.
Yeah.
Maybe sometime in the future, we kind of know what we want to do because we did a book review that we're really happy with. If we want to do a book review in the future, we know where we're going to shoot it.
Yeah.
Over some nice ice creams and cakes
Yeah.
at the Mango Tea, whatever club bar that is.
Yeah. And at that time last year, we were trying to raise the profile of our channel, so we were actually sending out like press releases and stuff to different places, trying to get noticed. Like even if like Time Out Shanghai would make a little blurb about us, or any kind of attention. And so I reached out to the book's publicist at HarperCollins, who had been someone I had worked with when I was at the newspaper in New York City. And so I was just like, oh, just so you know, I reviewed Lenore's book. If you want to take a look, it's there. And she wrote back, and she remembered me, and she's like, oh, that's great. Lenore's doing blah, 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 blah. If you were interested in doing something. So I had to write back and be like, I think you should look at our channel first. We're really not mainstream news. I've left that kind of in my past, and we're kind of a more experimental channel right now. And I never heard back from her. But I didn't want to fool anybody into doing something that really was not appropriate.
Well, and something you've gone back and forth with too is with farmed out work, that you could do freelance work in the mainstream.
Right.
And you've gone back and forth with whether do I want to do that or not, and every time that you are offered something, then you think about it and you're like, well,
it's my fear of success. No, it is, I think.
Well, it takes a lot of work.
Yeah,
It's not just something you throw off on the side.
Yeah, it's not a side gig, and it ultimately ends up being distracting rather than, if someone, this is a discussion for not a podcast. But so the book review was the book review, and it came out well. There wasn't really a whole lot for you to do. I think post-production you added pictures of children.
Yeah, just a little aesthetic stuff. It was mostly getting a good location and filming. The picture, our whole set shot was really spot on.
It looks really good.
Yeah.
You even chose that shirt for me to wear, I think.
Can we make, our whole thing was how do we make something look really nice and slick?
Yeah.
So that was the extra. If our last one was we're going to make an ugly snuff film, this one was how do we make a proper super commercial PBS special or something.
Something that's appealing rather than off-putting. So let's go on to Western Toilet this week.
Oh, yeah.
Our music arm, where we published the music video that went along with
our third channel,
Cool Water. So this, Peter, I'll tell you the story.
Tell me.
So I came home from work with a story. This grandma stopped me on the steps on the way to school and told me she had video of me high-fiving her grandson. Watch the video. Watch Cool Water. It's all in that. Our school has security cams, and the parents can watch me on security cams. And so Peter, I was originally just going to tell that story on last week's live stream, and Peter was like, no way, that's a giraffe story. So we included it in the giraffe video. And so we went into our elevator to shoot security cam footage. Peter just held the camera way up above his head and filmed me. What do you do when there's a security camera? You gotta dance. So I just danced around in the elevator wearing my giraffe costume. And so that's the footage that you used for...
We used it for the actual video itself.
Yeah, there's some in the actual video, and then...
And then what I've been doing for our music videos, because essentially that YouTube channel is just to listen to music. But as long as it's a video component, rather than just putting up like one photo or something like a lot of people do, might as well just slap a little extra video in there for extra stuff. So I've just been taking whatever's left over from our actual shoots and composing a quick little video that's thrown together. So for that one, I just took the entire footage of you in the elevator and then put that with the soundtrack, so that I didn't create new music for a Western Toilet video or a new video. I just took what was used in our original Hello Foreigner, made it into a music video, and that's why it makes it easier for, like, why do we have 3 channels, is because they're all the same components that we're picking a little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit of this, and we can put it over here into, like, because running one channel is hard enough. We're running 3, but it's not that bad when we're putting them all together.
So there's enough overlap that it's not like a whole new chore to do, but it's different enough that it can be its own thing.
And you get a little, like, the outtakes.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the song itself, I liked that it kind of had like a 70s instructional film kind of
little science water sounds.
Yeah, science water sounds. And did you have anything you want to say about
the music? I can say that it sounds a lot like a mixture of XTC mixed with Radiohead, but I mean, those are influences, so that's why that happened.
We caught you.
Yeah.
Okay, well then let's go on to Watch It.
Watch it.
Our Watch It this week is the NBC sitcom Superstore, which follows the lives of the workers at a fictional kind of Sam's Club. What are stores? Walmart. Yeah. And anyone who's ever worked in retail, myself included, thinks that their place of work should be a TV show. And we're right. It should. It's hilarious, this show. But what I really enjoy about it is how it can tell these little stories about little petty grievances between the workers and, you know, just the day-to-day boringness of working in retail, but then also, like, really in a meaningful way get at the kind of structural inequities of late-stage capitalism in America. Like, the season opener this year had two of the women were pregnant and gave birth, and one of them had the basic low-level floor workers insurance.
Clerk of some kind, or?
Yeah, she had the floor workers insurance, and the other one had the management insurance, and she had, like, a much better birth experience. And, you know, just, you know, what's unfair about working in the world today? I think it addresses those kinds of stories really well in a way that, like, makes you really feel for people who live that way for real. But
and
also
then identify if you've done it, like.
Or yeah. And also, it's just funny. It just is, like, super funny. But what's relevant to us is they make very good use of interstitials to give the extra flavor to the story. Usually the customers are not a big part of the story. It's the customers, if you've worked in retail, you know, the customers are just just there to like be in your way and annoy you. And so they never have their own part in the plot, but they are very well represented by these intercut shots of like just the mayhem they can create in the store in these 4-second shots, which we really found kind of inspiring for not that that's at all the story we're telling, but that you can take a moment as it's not just a transition, but it's also adding and enriching to the story.
Yeah, I would say that there were a big influence on stuff that we do with like and then now segment.
Yeah.
Like trying to find whatever the amount of it is, like 5-10 seconds, and like what capture a story. It doesn't have to. You don't know anything about the person, but if you can see 10 seconds of somebody's life and something that happens in those seconds, and put your head into that space of what that story might mean.
Yeah.
Like
without any dialogue, without any words, establish a premise and then have it resolve in some way is like a really elegant thing to do, I think.
Yeah, and it's not that easy. I mean, again, with like and then now is the concept of like people watching.
Yeah.
Like essentially what you're going to go do when you like, hey, let's go people watch is we're going to go sit outside on a park bench and we're going to sit out there for a couple hours and we'll just watch people walk by and we'll make up stories about them.
Yeah.
If you can imagine taking those moments and then editing them down to like the best 3 that I saw out of those 2 hours, that, rather than have to sit through all of them, we curate them for and then now. Yeah. And I think that comes in the interstitials of Superstore.
Yeah, and as a proof of concept, because when we discussed our first and then now, we didn't know. We didn't know if it was going to work or not. We talked about it and set up a game plan. But when I knew, when I was filming that we probably had something, was this one moment where a woman and her teenage daughter walked out of the grocery store. The woman stopped and looked at her phone, and the teenage daughter kept going and then yanked and then fell back, and then they kept walking. And it was like catching that, you know what's happening there. You can see that image. It might not be up.
Not yet.
Not yet.
It aired last year, but it's
it aired last year, but we haven't posted it yet. It hasn't hit the reruns yet. But that was a moment, like a full story happened within 5 seconds, and it, like you could watch that and know what you were looking at. And so I was like, I think I've got something here.
Particularly that like part of doing it as expats is to try and capture moments of like what's Chinese life like.
Yeah.
And capturing that moment in particular is like, it's not that it was a Chinese mom and her daughter.
Right, that's happening everywhere in the world.
Yeah, no matter what kind of person you are, that you know that moment.
Yeah.
And we're like, that's what we want to do.
So to find these physical moments that still tell some kind of, it's going to be abbreviated because it's 5 seconds, but it tells you a story. It shares a resolved moment with you. Which
is also, I think, another problem that we are, or it's not a problem, we're deliberately trying to do this, but trying to sell it. If we find it hard in a YouTube world to sell a 5-minute story or a 10 or 15-minute story that makes some kind of concise, composed sense, it's also hard to sell a 5-second story.
Right.
I think a lot of people will look at it and be like, so you showed me a picture, like, whoop-de-doo.
Right. Well, and that's in my former career when I was writing art critiques of like, you can look at a picture. There's ways to look at a picture and get a lot out of it.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's one
but many people need education on how to do that.
Yeah, particularly
you're not just born knowing how to do that.
There's a classic of like the person that doesn't go to museums, that goes to a museum, is curious about what they're looking at, and they stand there next to another person who knows what they're looking at, and they look at the tag and read about it, and they look up at the picture and they go, how long am I supposed to look at this for?
Right.
At what point do I get it?
Yeah.
Art.
So, Superstore, you should watch it. It's very funny.
Yeah. Great cast wonder. I mean, some of them are, but what's his name from Kids in the Hall and America
Oh yeah, Mark
Ferrara.
McKinney. Yeah.
It's a great cast.
Yeah, yeah, and again, it's very classically structured sitcom. The premise is pretty ordinary.
Yeah, I think it would be something that like I would just flip by if I, if we weren't people that are like, hey, new thing is on, let's see if it's worth looking at.
Well, Justin Spitzer, the creator, was a writer on The Office. So that's
workplace comedy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I would be.
I love a good workplace comedy.
It'd be something that I would just flip by and never think twice about. But having watched it, just because it's so mainstream looking, it'd be easy to forget about. But it really solidly, episode after episode, is just killer.
Yeah, which I don't know if it's popular or not. I have no idea in America what's popular and what's not popular.
I don't know.
But if I like it, it must be not popular.
Well, it's made like 5th season or something. 4th or 5th? It's been on for a while now.
I guess. Man, time keeps on
ticking.
slipping. Let's say noodles to you.